Hello YouTube and welcome to the 8th Java tutorial for beginners, and in this tutorial we'll be seeing something which is called if statement. If statement is actually a control statement, control branch statement, which checks the condition of something, and based on the validity of that condition it runs a certain block of code. Okay, just for an example, let's see, in daily life you use a very similar statement that says if you are young enough you can go, else you'll not go. So this very basic idea behind the statement that we make in our daily lives is right incorporated in programming language using the same if statement. So it just checks the condition of something, and based on the validity of this condition, whether that condition is true or false, it executes a certain block of code. So let's see how it goes. Let me first define some variable. Let's say int check and equate it to 10. Now I'm going to use the if statement. The syntax you guys see here, and remember it. If, we write if, and then within these parentheses we write the condition that is to be checked for validity. The condition which is to be checked for validity is written here. So let me check the condition for validity. Let it be if check equals, and this equals is nothing but relational operator, but we'll talk about that later. It is a conditional operator. It checks the condition. As we have seen, here are two equal signs and here is only one, because this is an assignment operator and this is a conditional operator. It checks, it falls under a category of relational operator, and it checks the value if something is equal to something or not. This is not assignment operator, this is just equal to operator. Let's say it checks whether it is equal or not. It doesn't assign it, guys. Make sure of that. Make sure you hear it perfect and clear. It doesn't assign it, it just checks it. So let's see, if check equals 10, then it would run certain amount of code, and that certain amount of code that you want it to run only and only if the condition is true, that certain amount of code is enclosed in its own parenthesis, its own brackets that if contains. In parenthesis would come the condition, okay, and its own brackets there would be the code that you would want to execute if this condition is true. So let's say system.out.println. If you want something to be printed when this condition, only and only if this condition is true, you write it within its own brackets. So let's write the condition is true. So this would be executed only if this condition, that means this is true. And only when would this be true? If the value of check is 10. So is this true? Yes, because already I've assigned the value of check is 10. So let's say had this value of check not been 10, so this condition would have been false. So what would you want to do? What would you want the program to do in the condition where this condition turns out to be false? You write that block of code by starting else. That means if the condition is false, then do this. And again, what you want it to do is enclosed within its own brackets. So let's write system.out.println again you want to write the condition is not true. Oops, my bad. So this would be executed only and only if the condition that has been presented inside if is false. But for this case, now you see check equals 10 and the condition is to check whether or not the value of variable check is 10. So it is true. Therefore, since it is true, this statement would be executed. Had this not been let's run first this. Okay, since this is true, so it shows the condition is true. Now let's say had this value of check not been 10, let's say it was 9, so this condition would have been false. So this block of code will not have been executed. Instead of that, else statement would have been executed, because this is how it works, either this or that. If true, then execute this. If false, then execute that. So since it is false, this statement will be executed. So let's run and see. The condition is not true. Since you can see it is not true, check value of variable check is 9, but we are checking for the condition whether the value of check is 10 or not. And since the value of check is not 10, else statement runs and prints the condition is not true. This is the very basics of if statement, and in the upcoming tutorials I'd be teaching different types of operators like logical operators and relational operators, which can only be understood by if statement, implementation of those operators using if statement. And that was the reason behind the fact that I taught you guys in this tutorial the if statement. Remember one thing, you do not put after this semicolon. If you do so, all of this code would be redundant. So remember, no semicolon after the condition. If check equals 10, bracket close, no semicolon. Remember that. Okay, so now I'll be seeing you in the next tutorial. I hope this was helpful. If you still have any questions about this tutorial, you can always ask in the comments below. I check it regularly, and do not forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.